What is up, YouTube? Thank you so much for your time. In this video, I'm sitting down with Ravi Abuvala, founder and CEO of Scaling with Systems, a company that's generated over $25 million online by the age of just 30 years old. Ravi Abuvala is somebody that myself and thousands of others have learned directly from and reiterated and re-engineered and reimagined our business models off of the things that he teaches and helps his clients with. So this was one of the most valuable opportunities ever for myself, Connor Zorro, and all of you guys to sit down and get expert insights on the best practices to use Go High Level, to hire, fire, and even productize your service offering, making it more scalable. Every single question that I've wanted to ask him after watching his content over the last 2 years. Guys, huge shout out to Ravi Abuvala. I'm gonna leave some links down below where you can learn about his company and how you can interact with his content. So if you guys like this video and you thought it was valuable, please share it with a friend, leave us a like and comment down below. But in the meantime, let's get right into it. Thank you, everybody.
I actually had Sean and Robin over at my house in San Diego. If you look at my YouTube channel and go to like one of the oldest videos, they came to my house in San Diego and I interviewed them on a podcast. And this was like the baby inception of Go High Level. Like I had no idea it was going to become what it was today. And so I forgot someone set that up. And that was the first time I'd actually heard of Go High Level and like started thinking about using it. As you kind of talked about, my whole business is around systems and automations and stuff like that. And so at that point, I'd probably worked with like 1,200 clients. Of course, the biggest problem was, okay, sign up for ClickFunnels, sign up for ActiveCampaign, sign up for Zapier, sign up for easy texting. And then I'm trying to connect all these different things together. One of the things that we obsess with, and I have since I started the business, is time to value. So like how from when someone pays us money to when they can get a return on investment, how do I shorten that or collapse that time frame? When I learned about Go High Level, I was like, oh my God, well, this is like, and then I learned about snapshots. I was like, well, this is it. This is like legitimately everything I need. One click of a button, everything can be installed. That was when I first started using it. That was like, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And full transparency, and Robin and Sean know this, I don't use Go High Level in my business, but that's because when you get to a business of a certain size, like trying to migrate everything over to a brand new CRM, it's kind of a total nightmare. But for all the clients that we onboard, it's the #1 CRM that we recommend, and we just give them the full snapshot for it.
Oh yeah, 100%. We come from kind of a little different background, Go High Level, where we were selling it to local businesses. And we saw on TikTok how I got into this, go set up these text message automations for local businesses. And so Don Baptist, who's not here with us, he makes $150K a month off the affiliate program, straight up, just 40% recurring commission, teaching myself who he taught and some other people how to sell it to other businesses, whereas you've taken it the route and actually made your service offering more leverage with the time to value and the fulfillment inside the snapshot. And so from that standpoint, what do you think is the best way to use High Level in that way? Is it to use it within your service offering, or do you think it is just to offer it as a software to other businesses?
It's a good question. I don't think there's like a right or a wrong of anything. I always just look at, and even when we start talking about like white labeling and affiliate later on, we can go into this conversation, but I always look at how much value can you create for your clients? And so for me, because that just means the amount of value you can create equals the amount of money that you can charge, right? The other thing about the value you can add is also how much can you differentiate between other people. So if you're just selling the software as is, it becomes very difficult. You can compete with everybody else essentially selling the exact same thing. So it becomes very difficult for you to compete on that. And there's no reward for the second cheapest offer out there. So you're either gonna be the cheapest or you need to be a more expensive one where you can have higher margins. So ultimately for me, I think, anyway, listening to this, you can go either route. And honestly, I just recommend whatever you're currently doing, like whether it's selling it as a service or you're adding it to your value stack, just do more of that. But if you had to start from scratch, I like adding it into an offering that you're giving other people as like a way that you can shorten that time to value. Because once again, I wouldn't be able to charge 5 figures to help somebody scale their business if it was like, oh yeah, here's this Go High Level snapshot. That wouldn't make a lot of sense to people. Yeah, I think the biggest point is just the differentiator with what I'm selling versus maybe if you guys went to the same clients that I'm selling it to and you say, hey, we'll give you this Go High Level snapshot, it's gonna be way harder for you to charge the prices that I'm charging for the same thing.
We see a lot of influencers. I know Ryan Pineda and some other individuals that are doing a similar thing. And because they're taking, their intellectual property, their Loom videos, going over it, their SOPs, it's kind of a unique value add within their service offering. And they're able to, where they have a school community, all of a sudden build extra MRR in their school community by saying, here's a problem that we didn't solve for you guys before, and here's a software to help you guys solve it. Not only with that, the snapshot with all the pre-built, sales campaigns and everything like that. So what I'm doing is, very similar to what you and the other people are doing as well, is just adding it onto our agency service as well as inside of our community. But I do think that right now I've been stuck kind of with some clients who either already use high level or they already have another CRM. And because it is like something within my offer stack, they will sometimes say like, well, I'm already using another CRM and I don't know if I want the CRM. And so I had some clients at first I was giving to high level and some I wasn't. And then it wasn't the same, service across the board or process of fulfilling it.
I do the same thing for all of my kind of students, I guess, that I'm teaching and people that sign up under me for Go High Level, almost reverse, where I'm telling them, okay, hey, take the software, make that the foundation, and then on top of it, offer additional services. So I have them offering pretty much anything that they want to offer. So like Facebook ads, lead gen, any other type of marketing, or just software management too. Because a lot of times I find that the business owners, a lot of the smaller business owners, they aren't super like tech savvy, so they want it done for them, and they're more than happy to pay to have it done for them, so they can be hands off and just focus on the business. So that's exactly what I tell my students to do also. But I'm curious to know your thoughts on, like, I know you briefly mentioned this before, points at which you would go the white label route and points at which you would go the affiliate route, or offer each of those, I guess.
Yeah, so it's a good question. And so we have a white label version of Go High Level that we're actually currently sunsetting, is the term we use in our company. It's actually an inside joke because we say sunsetting a lot, but we're actually migrating people back to Go High Level. And we have a decent MRR from it. But ultimately, the way I looked at it was this. I think it boils down to a few different things. So you're asking me, when does it make sense to white label versus just use, like, sell Go High Level as is?
Right.
Yeah, so I think if I had to break it down in the simplest terms, first and foremost, kind of like you were just talking about a moment ago, it is how many of your clients are already coming in, either using a different CRM or understanding what Go High Level is. Because if you're trying to white label it, it becomes difficult if you have some people that you're trying to help that you're saying, oh yeah, you can use Go High Level because you already know what it is. And some people you're like, oh, you have to use what my software is. And then typically when you white label Go High Level, you're going to charge more than what Go High Level charges, right? And so then some people are paying way more than if these people talk to these people and then they realize they're paying 2 times, 3 times as much for the exact same thing, then you can have a lot of churn or upset clients. Which brings me to the second point, which is like, how aware is your market of what Go High Level is? If you're doing local businesses, I think you can totally get away with a white label Go High Level because the percentage of local businesses that know what Go High Level is, very small. My primary avatar is coaches, consultants, agencies, online service providers. I mean, Go High Level has really cornered that market really well. People would come on board and they'd be like, oh, this is just Go High Level that you're white labeling, right? So in that case, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to keep on using our own white label version. The other reason we were doing the white label, which I've talked to Robin and Sean about this before, but previously I think Go High Level support, technical support, wasn't exactly the best in the world. Yeah. And so going back to one of our values is extreme ownership and time to value. If I just said, oh, here's this Go High Level thing, and then go and figure it out on your own, they'd typically fall on their faces if they weren't very tech savvy because they didn't have that support that they needed. In the same breath, if I was offering them it, Go High Level, but I was doing all the technical support, where I was I would be missing out on that value creation of that additional technical support that I could charge more money for, essentially, by doing the white label version of it. So that's why it made sense back then. But I just spoke at Social Media Marketing World, and I was speaking with Sean, and they were telling me, oh, we hired like 1,000 new employees, and they've just totally revamped the onboarding process. Now they have onboarding calls and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, wow. So at that point, it kind of made more sense to use the white label version, to use the Go High Level version of it instead of the white label version. That's why we're essentially moving the entire thing over. And I think the other biggest thing for me is, like, with all due respect, everything Go High Level has done, if you white label it, and they may try to sell you on this, I'm not saying if it's true or not, I don't know anything, but you're not really creating something of a lot of value for yourself, because all the value lies in the software, which is owned by Go High Level. So no companies, if you ever wanted to exit, it's very rare that a company is going to give you a huge valuation if your entire software is built on somebody else's platform. It's going to be kind of going to kill your valuation. So to think longer term, I thought it was just simpler and better if I was like, okay, cool, let me bring people on and just send them over to Go High Level. They have a great affiliate program. You guys said a second ago, you guys make a lot of money from it, so 40%. And you don't have to worry about any of the headaches. I liked that a lot more versus just every single client coming in, okay, do you know what Go High Level is? Do you not? Do you already have a version of it? Do you not? Am I trying to sell you on this thing over here? Do I have to give you continued support? It almost felt like unethical to also, when Go High Level rolled out new support features, to then be like, oh, we rolled out these new support features, but it was Go High Level that did it. So yeah, those are ultimately the reasons why we migrated back from the white label over to the to pure Go High Level. And I'll be honest, I'm happier, my support team's happier, my client success team is happier. All in all, I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, and I see on YouTube, there are some old videos of you with like Go High Level and Go High Level interviews. Did you ever do the affiliate, or did you straight go into the white labeled stuff? Or like, do you still make any money from the affiliate?
Yeah, so I definitely make money from the affiliate. You know, the weirdest thing that has ever happened is I had the #1 ranking video for Go High Level tutorial for the longest time, and then it got taken down for bullying and harassing, like on YouTube. I have no idea how that happened. I still to this day have no idea what happened with that, but I don't know if like someone spammed me to get it down. But yeah, that was printing cash. That was before I did the white label thing. If you typed in Go High Level tutorial, we were #1 in an incognito browser. And so that was doing really well for me for a while. So I have some decent MRR coming in from Go High Level with that right now. And then before I launched that software for the high ticket clients, for our own white label version of it, yeah, I was just sending people the links. The nice thing is that I had the stuff from the white label coming in, but I always had that baseline from the affiliate thing, and I plan on always having it as well. So yeah, I definitely started with that. I kind of pivoted a little bit, but then people were still signing up under my affiliate over here, and then now we're just going way back, going back to the original, back to the affiliate.
Yeah, and so I started kind of similar in a way. I just went super naive, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect, where I just made a TikTok about Go High Level and it absolutely blew up. And I had the ability to put a link in my bio with a free course and everything. And immediately everyone started signing up. But I then pivoted to building the agency based on the audience that I was building and offering it within my agency. But I found that it allowed me, just with a few extra MRR, a few extra $1,000 per month, to take like so many risks inside of my business, because I knew at the end of the day, Go High Level had my back and that those people were going to continue to be paying for that subscription. But I wanted to ask you regarding the learning curve with the clients. For us working with the local businesses, it was horrible. I mean, people forgetting their password to Facebook, and 1 hour Zoom call myself trying to figure out what their password to Facebook is. So I know that you were like the king of the productized service and the done for you, do it yourself, done with you hybrid offer. What is the best way to onboard a client in Go High Level? Is it through SOPs and looms and a snapshot? Is it through hiring a virtual assistant? What is the most leveraged way, do you believe, to do that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll just tell you what we do, because we've done it all, essentially. I love that Go High Level has now released this onboarding call thing that they have with their with affiliates. I don't know if it's for everybody, what the deal is, but at least for us, we're using this onboarding call. Going back to the sophistication of our marketplace, a lot of people in our market know how to, they're not gonna have a problem logging into their Facebook account, you know what I mean? So I'll have to probably speak a little bit more if I was in your guys' shoes, what would I do in that situation? So honestly, just so you know, like multiples for SaaS companies can be like 10, 20, 30, 40x, whatever the valuation of the company is. So if you know that every client you bring, Go High Level, that person is worth, let's say they stay for 6 months and they pay $100 a month, that's $600, and they get, if they were to exit the company, it was 10x, then it'll be $6,000 essentially that you're making in valuation for Go High Level for someone signing up for Go High Level underneath your affiliate. Are you tracking that so far? The reason I bring that up is because you know that you are creating serious equity and value creation for Go High Level. So I think it's then justified to rely on Go High Level support team and not as much your support team, because sometimes people might listen to this and be like, oh, it's like, why would Go High Level get on an hour Zoom call for a free trial for somebody? But it's because those numbers check out, those numbers add up, and they know that, and that's why they're super smart and they do it. So personally, me, I do this for any time there's a bottleneck in any kind of onboarding process. I almost have like every touch point, do it yourself, done with you, done for you. I'll do it in the order. So the example of do it yourself would be like you create course modules around Go High Level, how to sign up for it, how to get onboarded, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe a great thing would be if you created a ChatGPT bot that was the frequently asked questions of all the problems with Go High Level, and then people could just type it in and the answer would. Okay, perfect. So like I would send that to people because that way it feels conversational. So that's do it yourself. Done with you, I would leverage Go High Level's onboarding call. So for us, we send our clients the Go High Level onboarding call. And then done for you could arguably be the snapshot that you've already created A to Z for them. And you're saying, hey, just click this button and install it. If you have all of that down and you're still having technical issues, then you have to have, it's the same thing as the reason why you need client success managers is because you can't account for every eventuality. So you need human beings to essentially be the sweepers of that entire thing. They need to be the ones that are like, okay, this person was locked out of the Facebook account and I need to hop on a call with them for an hour. And that's where you would hire either an outsourced like support team, or you could bring it in internally, which is essentially what we did. I don't know, it depends on what people are trying to do if they were trying to scale, but if you were running an agency and you were having people with like consistent technical problems, that would be the order of operations that I would do it. And I would only put human beings and hop on calls with people after I had exhausted everything else. Because if you think about it, an hour-long call with somebody is like the most expensive use of somebody's time. I'll finish it with what I think to be, I actually have a YouTube video coming out this week on this. The number one client success tool that people have is actually your marketing and sales process. And so for us, we have something we call the one pager. And it's like defines everything that we're looking for in a client. And one of the things that we have is that they have technical proficiency. So we wouldn't sign someone that would legitimately be locked out of their Facebook account within 24 hours. So if you can do that, up front, you might think, oh, I'm saying no to a sale. But if you don't have to deal with all of these problem clients long term, not only are you just going to enjoy business more, but you're probably going to net out a higher profit margin and less time that you'll have to work in the business.
With hiring people, Connor and I, we're a little younger. He's 24, I'm 22.
That's awesome.
You're 28, right?
I just turned 30.
30? Oh, awesome. Was your birthday recently?
It was in April, but yeah, I'm in the online world, I'm a grandpa now. So I just say grandpa.
I'm April 3rd as well.
Oh, that's cool.
We find that it's, there's a lot of talent, right? You could pay anybody any really amount of money to, and there's a lot of Go High Level experts now, as you know. But we find that it's harder as younger individuals, when you have client success managers or people working for you, to not kind of take advantage of your naiveness, as the founder. So I've had a team size upwards of 5-6 people at once. It was really hard for me. I had people tell me they were working full time, that were working for 5 other companies at the same time. I started using Scrin.io to track all their screens, and that no one really wanted to work anymore because they were being tracked everywhere. And so what would you tell, like your younger self about properly managing talent and removing yourself? Because we all have personal brands. Our clients buy with us until we really have that unique value add, find product market fit. They're, majority buying it to get our experience in us. So removing ourselves as the personal brand from the value proposition, our service has been so hard. So I guess it's kind of 2 questions, but yeah, how would you?
Yeah, I was gonna say that is 2 questions, right? So one's on the client fulfillment side and one's on the operations management side, but I love both of them. So I'll answer them in that order. For the operations side of things and hiring a team, managing a team, naiveness, I always say that recruiting, hiring, onboarding, and managing employees is the most valuable skill of a CEO, yet it is the one that we get the least practice on, right? Especially in today's day and age where, it's not uncommon for you to get a revenue per employee in an online company in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, where the average small business would have maybe a $60,000 a year per employee, essentially meaning how much money you make divided by how many employees you have, that's your revenue per employee. That all to be said that you guys could literally make millions of dollars a year and have 1 employee and they could be a friend, you know what I mean? So like that never happened in the past. So not only is it important that you do this, but now you're getting even less practice than you were previously. Now there's AI, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not totally uncommon for you guys not to have that skill set. And I think, so the first thing is just recognizing that it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The second thing is just like any other skill, the only way you can get better at it, it's not through courses or masterminds or coaching, it's just to deal with it, right? Just to deal with hiring and firing. I mean, I used to think that like 2 interviews was a lot of interviews, 5 interviews was a lot of interviews. Now I have a rule that I won't, at least the company we have to conduct 40 interviews before we make an offer to somebody. And even if you think the first interview you take is the right person, you still conduct 40 more. Because every time you hire a position, if you do 40 interviews, within 3 positions, you will be an expert interviewer, right? You'll start to be able to suss out kind of, I don't know if I can curse, but some bullshit on some of the interviews that people have. And you get a better understanding of what to look for and what not to look for. Same thing goes with onboarding and managing people. You just need to do more of it to understand it. I will say that I hear this a lot. Actually, at my last mastermind, I spoke to somebody who was like, hey, I put everybody on these screenshot monitor things. Well, everyone's company culture is going to be a little bit different, but I always think I would want to create a workspace that I would want to work at, and I wouldn't want to work at a workspace where I was being monitored. But also, if you're having to do that, that just means that you have the wrong people in your company in the first place. Like, to do that kind of leadership style, you probably don't even want to do it and you don't enjoy it in the first place. Do that kind of leadership style just totally means you have the wrong people. Like, we're at the point in our company now where even for our VAs overseas, I have no screenshot monitor stuff anymore, because it's just like, first of all, in full transparency, I don't even check that stuff, right? So it's like, it's almost like a false, like, I don't know, some kind of like, I'm trying to trick them into thinking that I'm looking at it when HR isn't looking at it, I'm not looking at it. I just want people who are intrinsically motivated to be the best version of themselves, which I think would bring it back to, at your age, the best thing that you can do, ironically, to lead a team is to become like a really solid individual yourself. Because what I've found, and I know that's a cheesy statement, but what I've found is that all of the most talented employees I have in my company, first of all came from my personal brand. And second of all, they all look up to me or respect me in a way. It's so much so that they know that if they were slacking or whatever, I would be disappointed in them, and so they would be disappointed in themselves. And I'm not trying to say this in some kind of like hubris way that I'm like the most amazing person in the world, but just in the sense that like if you have somebody that you look up to and like, you know, and that person knew that you were doing a bad job, you'd probably feel bad about that. So I think working on yourself to be that person and being that leader is incredibly helpful. The other thing that I love is values. I think not enough people talk about values. When I first wrote my values out, I was with my mentor and he was like, look, just write down all the things that you hate in other people. And so for me, it's like victim mentality. That's the thing I really despise when I hear other people blaming other people for their circumstances. I also don't like liars or people that are dishonest. And so like, once you write down all the things that you don't like, when you reverse that, that becomes the values in your company. So for example, for me, extreme ownership. That's because I hate people that are victims or have a victim mentality, excuse me. The other one is going to be radical transparency, because I hate people that are dishonest, or I also hate when I have to be like gently tiptoeing around what I want to tell somebody because of whatever PC norms or something. I just want to tell somebody what it is. So we have a list of 6 values inside of our company, and we read it every day on every meeting. It's the first thing anybody in our company reads is the 6 values. And so when you write down these values, you're essentially identifying these are the things that I love about myself and I hate in other people. And so when you're interviewing people, you can if you go to our website, scalingwithsystems.com/careers, values are right there. It's on every job application that we have. It's on the first interview that we do. I always ask somebody, one of our values is radical transparency. Can you give me an example of where you practice radical transparency in your last job? And so by doing that, I'm essentially having people self-select, like, first of all, do they want to work somewhere where there's radical transparency, or would they not want to work somewhere where there's radical transparency? So that's already going to filter a bunch of people out. And the second thing is that I will only work with people if they do end up working with me. I can tell immediately, because it's the things that I like about people and I hate about people, if they should be here or not. So if I work for you for a week and I'm like, I really don't like this person, 9 times out of 10 is because you don't match my values. That's what a lot of these personality tests when you're hiring and stuff, that's what they're really testing those things there. And so if you can identify what that is that you guys like about yourselves, I mean, that is the most underrated operations like tactic or hack that you could ever do. Once you get that down, now you're gonna start working with people that you enjoy being with. Like if you guys worked for each other, you guys would probably love it because you guys share a lot of the same values. That's your friends all share a lot of the same values. My best friend, I'm going on a trip literally tomorrow with a bunch of my friends. It's because we all share the same values. So we're like very excited to see each other. And then as far as other tactical things on the operations side is concerned, great book is Traction. I would recommend reading that. That's if you guys haven't already. Like I thought I was good at operations, so I read that. On the EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System, like how you should run meetings, agendas, cadences, all of that stuff. That's super helpful, and you can go deep inside of operational stuff there. But definitely it's okay if you're not good at hiring and managing people. I don't even think I'm the best at it now, but I'm way better than I was when I was your age. And the fact that you're even managing people at that age is is pretty awesome. Okay, so the second question is, how do you remove yourself from your service delivery if people are buying essentially what is you, right? And I think it's a huge misnomer when people are like, oh, I don't want to build a personal brand because people are going to be relying on me and I can't remove myself from it. That's like saying I don't want to make a lot of money because then I have to manage a lot of money. It's like, okay, well, that's a dumb reason. So this is what I found. Personal brands are incredibly powerful. And the same reason why people are going to buy for you is the same reason why you can remove yourself from the fulfillment. And what I mean by that is essentially what's happening is there's a trust built up with you when people are consuming your personal brand. They first see your TikTok, your ads, your YouTube videos, and they're like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. They get on a sales call. You guys are probably the salespeople. They're buying from you. So like, yes, this is exactly what I need. So they have all this trust pent up at this point. And what happens is that they're now transferring this trust over into service delivery. What a lot of people will do is they'll be like, yeah, great, give me your payment. Okay, yeah, here's Bob. All right, I'll see you later. I'm hopping on the next call. And Bob's the client success manager. What you really should be doing is you should be doing what's known as edification. So you should be hyping the fuck up out of Bob. Bob should be smarter than you in every single way possible as far as the client is concerned. I'm really proud of the fact that, I run what is one of my offers is a coaching offer, and I've fully removed myself from it for the past 2 years. I haven't hopped on one coaching call, one onboarding call, and we still do decent numbers with that offer. And the reason that's been is because for the past 2 years, I have seriously edified my client success team. And I first of all, you have to hire really talented people and pay them really well. So there's no doubt about that. And you could just start with one person, but then once you do that, then you need to transfer that trust from you over to those people. So then whenever I'm doing the sales call, I'll be like, okay, this will make sense. And once you get onboarded, you're going to speak with Bob. Bob is the man. Bob's been with us for this long. Bob's been doing this thing for this long. Bob actually helped me with a few things. Bob knows way more than I do about this stuff. Bob, to the point that they're literally stoked to speak to Bob, right? And then of course, Bob can't let them down. Bob actually needs to know what they're talking about. But then that's going to really edify Bob to the point that when Bob gets on the call with them, they're like, you've transferred all the trust that you've built with them over to Bob, and Bob can run with it. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that the person's still not going to come back to you if they have problems, which is why you also need to make it crystal clear. Like we have an onboarding checklist. It shows how people get help, and it's clear that I'm not involved in that. We also make it so that if they ask Bob a question, same day response time. They try to send me a message, I just never respond. So even if, there's something called conditioning. I have a puppy when you're training dogs. It's like Pavlov's experiment. You ring a bell and they salivate. So if a client has a concern and they ask Bob and they get it immediately and they ask you and they never hear back, what do you think they're eventually going to do? They're just going to always ask Bob, right? Because now they're like, okay, well, at least I get an answer from Bob. And then the other thing I find is helpful is if you continuously work and train, in this example, Bob. So for example, for me, every single week, I do a training with my client success team where I'm helping them learn how to handle client concerns, how to make sure that they're getting results for the clients, blah, blah, blah. And so this way, I'm able to essentially, on one meeting, I can edify and train 6 client success managers who can then work with hundreds of active clients at the exact same time, and I'm not involved in that process. And then the beautiful thing that happens there is that now you can start adding in a more premium offer where someone's like we have people all the time that's like, no, I just want to work with Ravi. I want to work, and they're like, great, well, it's going to be literally 5 times the price to work with Ravi. And so then you really find out if they really want to work with Ravi or if they would just trust my team to do it. And then there's also people that come in scaling with systems at the regular price, and then they get results, and then the back end ascensions, they get to work more one-on-one with me. So it's definitely not easy to do in the very beginning, but it's great to set up systems. And then going back to what I said previously about your best client success tool is in your sales and marketing. If you as a salesperson, your sales team is doing a good job, let's say that I'm going to remove you, right? So let's say you have a salesperson named Joe and a client success manager named Bob. They should never mention your name in the entire client success thing at all. They should just be mentioning Bob. Joe should be talking about Bob. And so that way, when they get closed, the expectation is 100% aligned there, that they know that they're speaking with Bob. So if you get somebody and they're like, oh, I only want to speak with the face of the brand, the founder, blah, 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 over and over, and you're like, well, you got to pay this much. Well, I don't want to pay this much. Well, then you just don't close that client. And that way going back to what I said in the very beginning, you might be losing a little bit of money, but at least you're avoiding the massive headache that comes with that kind of person.
Something I think on a similar note that I've personally been dealing with, and I know a lot of other people are too, is the compensation side of things. So when it comes to hiring, sometimes I'll get myself in a situation where I offer someone like too much at first, and then I feel weird about taking it back, and then I'm in this weird situation. So when it comes to compensation, how do you plan that out most efficiently? And like, when do you offer someone percent revenue, what types of positions, and what types of positions do you offer a flat fee, stuff like that?
It's a great question. So I have a great video on my YouTube called What You Should Pay Your Employees that goes down, it's like 45 minutes, because I think this is probably one of the most underrated questions for entrepreneurs. Once again, going back to you guys, young entrepreneurs, you never managed people before, you can really easily and quickly fuck up compensation. And the next thing you know, you're paying people way too much, and then it's an awkward conversation, but also they're managing a lot of things, and so you don't want to, trust me, I've made every mistake in the book. So this is the way that I see it. So the first and foremost thing is you need to create, so I have something that I call the financial tracker, but you should be creating on a monthly basis what is essentially a P&L. How much cash did you take in? What was your marketing expenses, ads, maybe if you're paying like media team? What is your labor? So this is like all of your employees. What's your overhead, software, Stripe fees, et cetera, et cetera. Then you get your net profit. Then you have taxes, and then you get your true take-home amount of money. I wish I started that 4 years ago. I really only started doing that like a year and a half ago. So immediately having that true number that way, because at your age, at your guys' level, it's very easy to think like, okay, I closed someone for $5,000, I'm taking home $5,000, and that's how you can get a little bit underwater. And so by tracking this stuff, you can be way more clear about what my actual budget is, which brings the second point, budgeting. I'm not gonna say everybody's business, but in our industry, I like to see typically anywhere between 20 and 30% spent on labor. So I'm willing to spend 20 or 30% of my income, top line, on human beings to help me get back my time. So for easy numbers, if you make $100,000 a month, you're talking about you have $20,000 or $30,000 to spend a month on labor. For some people, they're spending $5,000 and they think that's great, but that means if you think of it the right way, you have an extra $25,000 to be able to get back as much time as you can and to be able to live your dream life. Other people, they're making $100,000 and they're spending $60,000 on labor, and now it's really hard to add in marketing or even your take-home salary to make enough money. Figure out your top line revenue. Figure out what you want to do, your actual, what you feel comfortable giving away. Don't be greedy, because I can say from a firsthand experience, being able to be fully removed from your business will make you more money than you can ever possibly imagine trying to hang on to an extra $3,000 or $5,000 in your profit and loss statement. So let's say it's 30%, now you have $30,000. Okay, then we look at what you need to be delegated and what needs to be taken off your plate. What would be the highest value thing? So like what would get you back 6-8 hours a day? An easy person would be a salesperson, right? So you can add that into the equation. That's gonna be 10%. And then the other one is gonna be, like you said, client success. Maybe someone around that line's there. So now we're looking at client success. Okay, so now we narrowed it down. We already took 10% to the salesperson, so I have 20% essentially left. And that's not including all these other positions that I probably need. So let's maybe have 10% to client success. The numbers that we like to see is 9% for client success. So so I have 12.5% for sales, 9% for client success. So now you have, let's say, $10,000, and that $10,000 you can say I can spend on client success. So do you hire one person? Do you hire two people? Do you have 5 people? What's the decision? Ultimately, what it comes down to is now that we've figured out the budget for client success, we go and see what the market rates are. So for you to go hire somebody who that you want to solve this position, the best thing I would do is I do 2 things. First is I go ask all of my friends that have that position, and I say, how much do you pay that person? Because now I would know what kind of the market pays. And the second thing is I put an ad out for that position using the rough range of what my friends told me. And then I interview those 40 interviews. And at the end of every single interview, I ask the exact same question. Great, and what would you like your on-track earnings to be? What would you like to get paid so every single day you came to work super excited to work and you felt like you were valued? And then people start throwing out numbers. And so now between what your friends gave you and then what people are literally saying, you can kind of start to get in a more reasonable range, and then you can see if that fits inside your budget or not, and you need to go up and you can hire something even better, or do you need to go down and maybe get a VA and just a helper at that point? Just go one layer deeper. When you get that number that they want to do, let's just say for easy numbers, let's say you have a client success manager and they want to make a 10 grand a month, and so that'd be 120 grand a year. Let's say you only have 100 grand to give away in your budget. So you have 100 grand to give away, they want to make 120 grand. So you have a 20 grand delta difference. What do you do now? You brought up a good point. Now you have revenue splits, you have profit splits, but you already have your budget baked in. So you're not just gonna give them the extra $20,000. And this is where you start adding in bonuses or on-track earning compensations where you're like, okay, cool. Right now, our typical churn is this, typical back-end sales is this percentage, and you have all these numbers because you're doing your tracking sheet. And you say, if you can bring in an additional, let's say 200 grand this year in business that we weren't gonna have because your average churn is lower than the company's average churn, or you're doing client success ascensions. I budgeted 10% of my top line revenue that you brought in. And so if you bring in 200 grand, that is essentially 20 grand that you've created for yourself. Now both parties are able to meet. You're making an extra 180 grand net, and that person's getting the on-track earning compensations that they want to get. Anything other than what I just broke down for you is essentially laziness on the entrepreneur's part. And I think people are way too fast to be able to say, oh, let me just give the salary, this amount that this person wants. And if you can do the calculations that way, even if it ends up being a little bit off what you had like projected or budgeted, I promise you it'll be 100 times more accurate than just being like, oh, what do you want to get paid? Or, oh, my friend one time said that it should be 5 grand a month or 10 grand for this position. And so you just pay them out accordingly.
That reminds me of this unique process. I think you might have seen it before with hiring a specific individual, whether it's sales or a CSM. Let's just take sales, for example. And they were making a post. Would be for people who kind of like us really can't afford just yet with our percentage of revenue to hire that 10K month A player in the United States, but rather, looking for alternative overseas option. There was this method where this person had a job application they posted with a specific date and time for all of the virtual assistants that were sales people, whether appointment setters or closers, were supposed to show up with the requirement of a specific amount of English, being able to speak, specific sales experience. And they would have like 100 people on one Zoom call, and they would call them all one by one, making them read a script off that they had already curated. And as soon as the people lied about, let's say, their English speaking abilities, they would just kick them one by one until they were left with like the last 10 applicants. Have you ever seen that, or have you ever done anything like that?
Yeah, so creating recruiting systems is also another really important thing that we didn't get to talk too much about here. But I always say the main reason why people can't scale is because you can't hire. And that's because you think, oh, I got to go through this whole process of hiring this person, blah, blah, blah. So you have to make that an easy process so that you don't fear scaling, either consciously or subconsciously. And so, yeah, what you brought up was a really good point. That's a great way to do it. But even at that point, I think that like to get on a call and to go through 100 people and then like have them read off the script, I think that there's probably some systems and automations you can set up prior to that can filter out those bad people. I mean, you legitimately have software now that can read accents and tonality and fluency using AI. So what we try to always do, let's say I was hiring for the appointment setting position or the sales position, is try to filter through as many people as possible through like simple instructions, having them leave recordings, and then you guys are automations experts, having that zap over to some kind of AI that'll listen to the voice, and then we have a full recruiting pipeline, and so it'll move them to the stages based on where they're at. So instead of getting on an interview with 100 people and maybe you have 2 people that are interested, you get on the room with 10 people and maybe 5 people would be actually qualified at that point. So the more that, just like with clients, like you're not getting on a call with every single person that ever says, oh yeah, let's get on a call. You're having an application process and a filtration process and blah. So if you can do that, even a values question or test would be great. Even a skill test question would be great as well. The more you can filter that out and understand that, I think the biggest mistake people do is they rush through the process because they need a hire right now. But a bad hire will cost you not only all of that money and salary you spent, but it will cost you probably 3 to 6 months to realize they're bad, then go through the process of having to fire them, then go through the inner process again. So I always add an extra 4 weeks, whatever my hiring cycle is, and that gives me the comfortability of being like, I'm gonna hire the right person for this position.
That's amazing. And one more thing before you go, I think one of my old VAs, and that screwed me over, I won't mention his name, but he said he used to work for you, and I'll maybe leave this out or cut it out, but his name was, do you know?
No.
There's probably 100.
Yeah, I've never heard of that name. I get screenshots every single day of people being like, oh, this person said that they made your YouTube channel. I just had one yesterday of that. People just reference my name all the time, but no, I've never heard of them before.
Well, thank you so much, Ravi, and thank you for speaking to the younger generation and audience of business owners. The majority of people who watch our content are people who have been watching a lot of your content, trying to build the level of business that you are building. So you have inspired both of us and everybody watching, and thank you so much for your time today. But yeah, if you guys are interested in learning more about Ravi, you guys can go to scalingwithsystems.com, as well as we'll leave the link down below to his Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, everywhere that you can find him. And please go support his page as well. But thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate having it. And you guys keep on crushing it, being this young and doing everything you're doing. You guys are actually ahead of what I was doing at this time. So it's super impressed with it. Great podcast and great work, you guys.